Zero. Hello and welcome aboard, everybody. It is Sunday night. That means it's time for Sunday Live, starring Scott Sandlin and Richard Nongard and you. Why is it starring you? Because your video's not here. Well, it's starring you because, one, you make this possible by asking questions and coming up with ideas. But two, this really isn't about us. This is about you having an opportunity not only to learn about hypnosis, but also to experience hypnosis as well. So it's great to have everybody here tonight. And as usual, we have some awesome things on the agenda. One of the first things we're going to talk about, though, tonight is a little bit about hypnothoughts.com and answer some questions and tell you a little bit about the future. And I know that some of you who are listening to this video might not be a participant in hypnothoughts.com, but it's the largest social media site for hypnosis on the internet, and it's a great place to be. So, Scott, will I type random stuff in the chat box? By the way, the chat box is below, so you can type in the chat box. You can change your name by clicking on guest number and changing your name to whatever you want to call yourself. I'm going to type in the chat box. Will you introduce yourself and say hello?
Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday evening. A fun evening tonight. Of course, there is the lunar eclipse blood moon excitement. Some of you are able to look out your window right now and see that. Others, like me, are on the West Coast, and so we have daylight for hours. But yeah, as Richard's typing, I'm the founder of Hypnothoughts, and I'm the guy who built the thing in the first place and just moved the site to the new platform. This is Hypnothoughts 3.0. We've done a lot over the years and made a lot of different changes. And before it was Hypnothoughts, it was called something else completely, but that's not the point. The point is, over the last 8 or so years, we've had to make a couple changes, and this last change is dramatically the largest. And the big reason for that, simply put, is necessity. The platform that we've been on for the last 8 years is going away. And so we have no choice but to move platforms. We can do it now or later. And I chose to do it on my time and my terms rather than wait until we get a announcement from the company that they've gone bankrupt and you have 30 days to get your stuff. So I've been spending the last few months working on this, and it's pretty darn cool. There's a lot of updates and upgrades to this site. Those of you guys who are nerds like me look at the site and say, wow, there's a bunch of new resources, and this is a more streamlined, better mobile, lots of great stuff site. But I understand that for some of you guys, this is a big change. That's okay. Every time we've made a change to Hypnothoughts, it's been an adjustment, but this is an upgrade. So those of you who have any questions specifically about it, we've created a couple discussion on Hypnothoughts where you can ask questions, give your feedback, submit bug reports, all that stuff. And we're moving pretty fast on it. We've already made a bunch of adjustments and cleaned up a couple things. And I'm appreciating your guys' feedback. You know, there's only so much that you can beta test on a non-live site. So we have a shrinking list of issues that you guys are helping me discover along the way. So while I'm just kind of saying all this, Richard, are there any other pieces about the new Hypnothoughts that you think I should be discussing, or any common questions you've seen that I should address?
Yeah, I actually have a sound problem tonight, so I actually have no idea what you said, but I'm assuming you asked me if there was something that I think you should talk about in regards to Hypnothoughts.
That's exactly what I said.
I have no idea what you're saying. Your lips are moving, and I'm trying different things here to solve this, and none of it's working. But I'm just going to answer questions that I think you might ask me. I think one of the things people want to know about when it comes to a website like Hypnothoughts, because obviously there's a huge tech component about it, but how, even if there are significant changes, can people use some of the new ideas to really reach other people? For example, my favorite section of page is this converged blog announcement calendar section. I think it's a great way to have a bigger reach. And one of the things, as I understand it, is that unlike the forum, is actually indexed. so people can search it, whereas in the past that wasn't something that was available. And so I will try to lip read your answers, and we'll continue to figure out why I have no speaker.
That is correct. Let's see. Can other people hear me? Let's see. Can other people hear me? Because I can hear you. Let's see. Can other people hear me? Let's see. We'll find out there. Yeah, doing what Richard said was, I think, an important adjustment to the site. A lot of the features that exist, thank you, Aaron, a lot of the features that exist on HypnoThoughts have just been, we've been stacking things as we've been growing. And so this was a real opportunity for me to rethink the site and what parts actually function for what purposes, and to streamline some stuff. So it's pretty exciting to do. Richard and I have, by the way, have had nothing but tech challenges today. So this is not all that surprising that Richard can't hear me.
Well, I can actually hear you at a level 2. I cannot raise the volume level at all. So I can hear chatter, but it's something with my computer somewhere. That's what the issue is.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm using the right microphone, so it's not me. Okay.
No, it's definitely me.
Yep.
So I'm trying to.
Oh, and now I can't hear you, but that's exciting. So those are basically the things that I wanted to say about HypnoThoughts. I think this is absolutely a step forward for us, and there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, and I think it's going to be absolutely worth it. If you guys have questions, if you guys have feedback, I'm happy to receive it, and post it in the appropriate sections of HypnoThoughts. I'm willing to bet, I mean, it's been up for 8 days. I'm willing to bet 8 days from now, everyone's going to be comfortable with it. And 80 days from now, you guys will wonder how we ever got along without the site being the cool way that it is now. And actually, I'd like to bring up something about one of the posts on the site. And it's something that I think ties us into our topic for tonight. Kevin Cole just posted a Indiegogo or a GoFundMe or something like that for another hypnotherapist who was injured. He was actually carjacked. And part of that carjacking, his jaw was wired shut. And he's in bad shape. He's in critical condition, or at least was. I don't have a quick update on him, but he was in a tough position, obviously. And this isn't the first time we've had a hypnotist fall on hard times, and it won't be the last. And I'm glad that HypnoThoughts is one of the places that can be a resource for collecting information and distributing that information so that people can give him the help. And when I was looking at that brought me to the subject of tonight's talk. And a number of years ago, 6 or so, my grandfather passed away, and he was 92. And so it wasn't a huge surprise that he passed away, but it wasn't fun. And, being very close to him, I spent a lot of time in those final days and weeks by his bed. And that meant I wasn't in my private practice. And we all have a variety of reasons why we might not be able to be at our practice for this week or this afternoon, or we might get laryngitis, or our kid might get laryngitis. Or there's a ton of reasons that aren't even very dramatic. You might just have car trouble. And there's a lot of little silly logistical things that can get in the way of the day-to-day. And so one of the things, and some very dramatic things, like the ones I just mentioned. But the master control, I'm just reading your stuff in the chat room, Richard. But all of that to say, there are a lot of things that can happen in this world, some of them wonderful and some of them not. A little while ago, it was my niece being born, and it can be anything that takes priority and preference over being in our office. And I talk to hypnotists who don't think about those eventualities and those possibilities and don't plan accordingly. And I think we should. Wow, I'm here.
Yeah.
I hear myself on a delay.
Yes.
Proud.
I fixed my sound problem. I can now participate fully. As a matter of fact, not only can I participate fully, I can broadcast this whole darn thing across the neighborhood, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
All right, now let me turn it down so you're not listening to yourself.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
so now you can ask me anything you want to. I can talk. I can answer questions. I can participate fully once again.
Well, we're almost at the point where you say that every week we get together, but we have 4 more minutes till we get to that.
Okay, all right, I'll keep listening.
I'm just to catch you up quickly where we are, and for the people who are just joining, to think about the fact that there's more going on in this world than just you seeing clients. It doesn't exist in a vacuum, and I think it makes sense for us to plan for more than just, I want to see clients and I want to make enough money to pay my rent, and then someday I'll stop doing that, which seems to be as complex a plan as a lot of hypnotists have. And I think there are a lot of hypnotists playing checkers when we can be playing chess, and we have the brains to do it, people. So, Richard, let's talk about that. Let's go big picture first. You don't see as many clients as you used to, but you used to see a lot of clients and used to do a lot of one-on-ones. And what was your philosophy in making that transition from just doing one thing to doing multiple things?
Well, let me share, because I love to talk about the big picture, and hypnosis is a great tool for helping us to grasp the big picture. Now, I first learned about what I might call big picture hypnosis, not from a hypnotist, but from a CPA, from an accountant. And it was 1994, and I had started Peachtree Professional Education. And my then father-in-law was a CPA. And I had 2 small kids and no money, and wanted to start this company, and I had some success. I had done a couple of training sessions for mental health professionals, and had made a couple $100, which was pretty awesome. Because remember, I was actually working as a therapist for the state of Texas, actually for an agency that contracted with the state of Texas. So I was making like $400 a week or something like that. And this was after graduating with a master's degree. So this was not the big bucks. And so I was determined to start this company. And when the checks started rolling in from these first couple of training sessions, I was really encouraged. But I knew in order to go further, I needed capital. And so where do you go? You go to family and friends, right? So I went to father-in-law, who was a CPA, who we knew had $1,000 because he was a CPA. And he said, I would love to loan you $1,000 to help the business start, but I need a written business plan. And I said, a what? He said, a written business plan. You have to have a business plan. And to me, well, what do I need a business plan for? I'm a therapist. I'm just going to see clients. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to see clients, and I'm going to do trainings on Thursdays in Austin, right? That was kind of the plan. And he said, no, actually, here's the format. Here's how I need it. It needs to be, whatever it was, 20 pages. And I thought that was crazy. And they've included things like 5-year and 10-year goals. And I was like, seriously, I have no idea what, 1994, I had no idea what would be happening in 2004. But I needed $1,000, so I wrote the whole damn thing. And what's interesting is that I still mentally, in my own mind, refer back to that business plan that I wrote in 1994 when I'm making decisions today. It's still a place for me when I'm sitting at my desk to simply go to in my own mind to extend from 1994 to 2004 to 2014 to 2024. That's future pacing. That's a hypnotic method that an accountant taught me the value of. And it's not that we know what we're going to be doing in the future. We don't really know what the future holds. In 1994, I didn't know that we would be delivering education online. Part of that $1,000 was just to buy a CD drive for my computer. It was probably $250 of it. And that was just so that I could load software efficiently onto my computer. I didn't know that we were still using floppy disks. I didn't know we'd actually be doing what we're doing tonight. But by taking time to step back from sort of, the daily tasks that have to be done, answer the phone, see somebody at 2:00, create a brochure, go to Kinko's and make some copies of it, pass it out to the dentist or whatever it is that people do. Being able to sort of, what kind of lifestyle do you want? how do you see your business interacting with your family life? That's something that's really that's been something that's really been important to me for the last 20 years. Most people know that for a long time I was a single dad and had custody of the kids, and the kids lived with me, and so I only wanted to see clients, while they were in school. That was, it limited my income in some regard, but at the same time, it gave me a quality of life. It was far better than if I had worked for an agency or done some other type of work. And so I think that big picture hypnosis is really all about, establishing what might be referred to as a valued path. What are our core values? What's most important to us? That helps us make decisions about then what type of clients will we see. I've talked about my weight loss hypnosis, and I only see men who need to lose, half their body weight. Right? That's all I work with in weight loss. It's not that I don't believe I can't benefit other people. It's not that I don't believe that I could work with other people or whatever else, or that people who need to lose 40 pounds, can't benefit from hypnosis. It's not at all. It's just in line with what I really like to do. What are my core values? Who do I derive the most pleasure from working with? And, that being said, in my private practice work, I only work with people who I want to work with at this point. In fact, I've really always only worked with people I want to work with. I think that's helped me to be more successful at what I do.
So part of what you're talking about is the survive to thrive piece, right? Not just survival, but actually enjoying what you're doing and enjoying your whole life, not just, keeping the lights on.
Yeah, absolutely. If I need to keep the lights on, I'm not going to start doing therapeutic work that I'm not happy with. In fact, I'll tell you, I turned the lights on story. Well, as a licensed and degreed therapist, there was one time I waited tables and another time I delivered pizzas. Now, that was early on in my career, early on in my private practice. But I decided that because I wanted to focus on doing what I needed to do correctly, I didn't want to start doing therapeutic work that wasn't going to make me happy. So the $10 an hour as a waiter, the $10 an hour as a pizza dude, actually paid my mortgage at the time, and then gave me the mental space I needed to do what I wanted to do correctly. Does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense. This is something I have a conversation with at the drug rehab centers, and my metaphor is actually going out of style, which sucks. But the metaphor is Angry Birds, right? Which was a really popular game, and it's less so now. But you can get a 1-star, 2-star, or 3-star when you pass a level, and a lot of people just play to pass, and they just want to get through something, and they want to play to pass, and they want to move on, play to pass, move on. And there's a lot of people who live their lives that way. And there's a number of people in the drug rehab centers that I work with that were doing that. They were just living reactively and just getting through. And I'd like you guys to all just to actually think, and you can do this with anything, your life, your relationships, whatever, but let's make it about your practice and you're helping people with hypnosis, okay? And whatever that looks like for you. Let's make that metaphorically Angry Birds, okay? And you know how to get through a level. And you can have a series of habits and skills and go-to moves that can just keep getting you 1-star, 1-star, 1-star. And I think of 1-star as survive. And then 2 stars is what I call success. How do you get from 1-star to 2? Well, you're more efficient. You use the different resources, the different colored birds that have different things. You use a red bird or a yellow bird or a whatever bird. And because you use the different resources differently, you go from survive to success. And that's great. That goes from 1-star to 2 stars. And that helps make things happen in your life that might be more fun or more rewarding or might make you more proud. But I think there's another stage beyond that, and that's 3 stars, obviously. And Dan Paris and I were talking about this pretty recently. It's survive to success to significance. And the idea of being significant. And that can mean a lot of things in a lot of different ways, depending on who we're talking about. And you missed the bonus play. Exactly, here as usual. There are things that show up. There are gifts and rewards that show up for doing better than just squeaking by. And when you're talking about significance, that might be significant in terms of your ability to donate money to a colleague who needs help. Or it might be being able to take your family on vacation, or it might be being able to mentor other hypnotists or teach or go to the conferences and be a presenter, or whatever it is. All of a sudden, you have different goals that you're going for and different points that you're going for and scoring things more thoughtfully. And in order to score things better, you need to realize what resources you have. Now, as we're talking about this, a big part of something I like to get back to over and over is, I'm not telling you what your priorities should be. I'm telling you should have priorities. And I'm not telling you what your priorities need to be. I'm saying in order to get to success and significance, you need to have priorities. And if you're just living on default, you're just going to, it's very likely that you just keep getting 1-star move along over and overs. Before Richard goes to the puppet, last piece on this. I know for me, when I went from not having enough money to pay my rent and going into deeper and deeper debt every month to turning it around to having more and more money in my bank account every month, I felt nervous about messing with that, right? I didn't want to touch something that was working now. You know, there was a fear to move outside that comfort zone. And a big part of that is lack of a plan, right? You don't just leave a comfort zone, you leave for something that can be successful, and you have that, you know, plan your work and work your plan and all those sorts of things. I'm going to read the chat room while the Panda Puppet responds to all of that.
The Panda Puppet actually can't talk, so Panda Puppet has nothing to say. I just picked it up as I was walking across the room, and I thought to myself, I would bring a cute panda to today's class. So this is just merely a cute panda for today's class. I think once we used the panda as a representation of Michael Elmer in a class, if I remember correctly.
It's entirely possible.
I think we did. Or something of that sort. You know, in using hypnosis as a resource for tapping in, though, to a couple of things, I think number one, we can use it just to center ourselves. Sometimes it feels like there's so much going on around us, so many responsibilities, we can't really do what we want to do. And we can use hypnosis just to step into that safe place or that quiet place or that resource state of sort of putting some space between me and the daily tasks and the daily routine. The second thing we can utilize hypnosis for, though, is a tool for really brainstorming. What's interesting is that our conscious mind, when we're trying to come up with a business idea or a strategy for success, our conscious mind is going to throw out the things that we think we should answer, rather than the real creative things that are probably unique. And using self-hypnosis as a tool for really entering into those deeper states of creativity and coming up with solutions and strategies that we've never thought about before. You know, one of those, I was really one of the first people out there in therapy with a website, right? And I mean, I had my first website was galstar.net /tilde Nongard. That was my first website in about 1997 or 1998. And then I started putting my prices on the website, and other therapists freaked out. What do you mean you're putting prices on websites? People don't put prices on websites. Now everyone puts prices on websites. And that sort of was one of those deep ideas. I was actually driving between Lubbock and Tulsa, or Lubbock and Austin. And I remember I was driving a 1995 silver Caprice. Right, that's what I was driving, and I had this idea. I'm going to put my prices on the website because I only want people who can afford me to call me. Right, and that's why I put my prices on the webpage. People say, "Well, isn't your competition going to see your prices?" I mean, I don't compete on price. I compete on the value of my service, on the benefit of my service. So, you know, sometimes when we get into that, and why is the driving important? You know, when you go on an 8-hour drive, you know, you really get into a deep state of hypnosis, a deep state of highway hypnosis. Never asleep, but deeply entranced.
And never texting.
I wasn't texting because texting hadn't been invented
But
yet.
importantly, yes.
I had to stop at the payphones in order to make a call and let people know when I would be home. But we can use hypnosis to access those creative ideas that haven't been tried before and that are really brainstorming ideas, because those are going to come out of the subconscious mind's creativity. I think we can use hypnosis as a tool for anxiety. I have to admit, that I really hadn't taken any business courses and didn't know too much about business and was sort of accidentally successful early on. And that made me really nervous. It made me really, really nervous in 1996 when I started to make more money than most therapists make. Oh my gosh, what if this gravy train ends? What am I going to do? And I became nervous about things like that, and projecting into the future. And so
or what are those natural lulls that happens in any practice where all of a sudden there's a slow month and you're not used to that, and you said, "Oh my gosh, is this whole thing coming to an end now?"
Well, that's what happened to me. Historically, for me, my very worst month has always been August. In fact, for many years, I've just taken an X and put it through August, kind of written August off. So in those early years, I didn't recognize this as a pattern. So August would come, and it was just a typical August experience. People wouldn't book. I wasn't seeing clients. I wasn't making any money, and I would go into freak out mode. What if nobody wants me anymore? What if somebody else is cheaper? What if whatever? And it turned out that it was just an August thing. Like I said, if it wasn't for HypnoThoughts, I'd just take August off. You learn those things from experience, though, that you need to save your January money for August. And that's really a business thing. That's about cash flow. So one of the things that I've learned over the years, since I did not go to business school, is about business. And so for every therapy book or lofty book on the human mind that I buy, I try to buy a book about business. I mean, my bookshelf over here now has as many business books out as it does there.
We lost you for a second. That's great. By the way, let me respond to a couple things in the chat room. First, Lisa. I'm sure the only thing on Richard's website in 1997 wasn't just the price. I'm sure he also had benefits too. That was just one of the things, not the only thing he had on there. And Kelly said, guys, there is some advice out there to develop a niche. At what point, if any, do you think this is a good direction for a hypnosis practitioner? So my response to that is at HPTI, every graduate of our program is required to write a business plan. And there are, obviously, the realities of running a business means they might change it, but they should change it mindfully. And there are some people who, I've read a lot of their business plans, and some of them go into it with a passion or an interest, or based on their area, they've got an opportunity to make a lot of money, or some, just sort of organic motivation to be pointed at something. And some of them don't. And I would say if there is either a feeling within you, a skill you've developed, or an opportunity you see, I would develop a niche. But I don't think you need to rush to one just for the sake of having one. And I also think that it's fine to see 100 clients and find out what your niche is. I think there are people who decide what their niche is going to be before they've ever seen a client, and it turns out the thing they want to niche in is not something they're naturally best suited to do. They might be better at something else, and they've made their situation harder. So I would say a niche is a great thing when it exists for an organic reason, and a niche is good when it's there for an intentional reason. But having a niche just for the sake of having a niche, I think, is counterproductive. Richard, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I tell people to create a niche if you want to create success. But I think you're absolutely right that people don't have to decide what their niche is before they start seeing clients. See clients, start working with different people, find out what you enjoy. And then the other thing is that your niche might change, and then different opportunities might present a new niche. So in 2006, I decided to open up the Tulsa Hypnosis Center. And I decided I was going to do radio advertising. Again, back then, people were online, but it wasn't the primary source. So, your website was helpful or useful, and it brought you some extra business. But, people were still using Yellow Pages. People were still, doing, a lot of traditional advertising. And I decided I was going to do radio advertising. But Tulsa is actually a fairly big market. I know most people are like, what the heck's in Tulsa, Oklahoma? But it's actually a big market. I think it's like number 47 in radio markets. And so ads are expensive. So the only station I could really afford to run the required number of ads on was a AM sports station. And And so because this was what I could afford. Now I look at the demographic, who's the demographic, man? And I started doing sports performance hypnosis. And I really kind of built the Tulsa Hypnosis Center on sports performance hypnosis. And I'm not, Mr. Sporty. Sure, I actually am certified as a personal fitness trainer, and I am using my Fitbit every day, and I am a member of Gold's Gym, and I understand the value of athletics, but I'm not a competitive athlete. I haven't played a lot of team sports. I was on the golf team for a short period of time in college, but most of my athletic stuff has been out of personal interest or personal health reasons. So I wasn't going from Richard being a pro athlete to working with pro athletes. I was going as a hypnotist to semi-pro and pro athletes and helping them to achieve success using hypnosis. So that niche came out accidentally because that was the business opportunity that presented itself. Another niche, though, really came out of a personal interest of mine, and that is academic performance. And I started working with exceptional kids, not kids who are getting D's and F's who needed to get C's and B's, but kids who were getting A's who needed to get A pluses. And for some reason, I just really enjoyed work. And what happened was back in 2006, 2007, a couple of kids, came to my office, they were 16, 17, and the issue was, peak performance. Let's, try to get the highest SAT scores. Let's try to, get that, valedictorian level. And that was new to me. But I found that I really enjoyed it. The principles of peak performance hypnosis that I applied in sports applied over here in academics. And I loved working in that area. So, people know over the years, Alex and I have developed a speed reading course. Alex and I, my son Alex, have worked together, in the area of academic performance, producing some courses, videos. Roger and I are even doing a thing on academic performance coming up here in Seattle in October. And for me, the great thing about that niche is that no matter where you live, whether you live in a big city or whether you live in a rural area, it provides an opportunity for success. Because there are students, not only kids in school, but college students, junior college students, and professionals taking professional exams, whether it's an EMT or a real estate exam or anything else, who are adult learners. And so even in a rural area, that could be a great niche. So, one of my niches came out of a business opportunity, and the other niche came out of really me discovering who I really like to work with from a pool of existing clients.
And by the way, Lori is posted in echo.
That's because I cannot figure out how to turn my volume down now, Scott.
This is just how today's going. Lori has pointed out from the UK that it is pronounced niche, not niche, in other parts of the world. But our blue-collar mentalities will go with niche just for consistency.
I am going to defer to the English guy for the correct pronunciation in the English language.
Fair.
You add extra letters to their words, but I will forgive you for that one.
Yeah, they came up with aluminium and things like that. But talking about proclivities and where you want to go and all that, people have been asking me to make more products for a long, long time, not because I'm awesome, but because they care about me and they want me to have more stuff to sell. Not because they want to hear it, but because they want a commission for selling it, I think. And that's just really not my style. And it's nothing other than that. And, I've been going to hypnosis conferences forever, and all the people at vendor tables have been saying, you should have a table and you should be selling books, you should be selling CDs, you should be selling these things. And I remember talking to Robert and Linda Otto, who, Robert's made a lot of money selling hypnosis products and hypnosis recordings. And I said, Robert, I don't want a bunch of cassette tapes and CDs. I don't like the idea of stuff. I don't even like the idea of buying books. I like the idea of information being electronic and everywhere. And he said, what the hell are you talking about? It's 2003. And I said, I like or 2001. And I said, I don't like the idea of having a thing. I like the idea of it being out there. I like the idea of not having to carry stuff around. I like the idea of sharing information and be a conduit for it. And he said, that's not where the money is. And I said, I don't care. It's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in working with clients, and I'm interested in that. And I think I've turned that into something that works, and that's because it's authentic through me. Now, I do have a couple products, and I have a couple recordings and classes and things like that, and I actually do aspire to make more of those in the next coming couple years. And part of my reasoning, and this is something when we're talking about keeping the big picture in mind, early in my career, I said I don't want to make a whole bunch of recordings for sale because I don't think I'm good enough yet. Not in some self-deprecating way, but in a quality control way. I was saying I want more hours under my belt. I want more experience before I start hyping myself and promoting myself. I don't want to be embarrassed about my stuff later. And I think that was a reasonable decision. I think I waited a little too long before I made the recordings, but a reasonable decision. And by the time I got to the point where I felt comfortable making the recordings and felt good about it, I was so busy seeing clients, it was hard to find time and make time. And I was, it goes back to I was making so much money doing one thing, I didn't want to change it to do something else. And so you start playing with all this stuff, and you need to every once in a while stop, get a big picture perspective and look at how many stars are you getting on the level. What Angry Birds are you using, and how many stars are you getting because of it? And recently I looked and I said, you know what, I'm leaving a couple potentials underutilized, and I can do a couple things better. And I also looked at some things and said, I might be putting too much effort there. And so reshifting and rebalancing, and that's something that throughout our careers we're supposed to keep reevaluating. And if you're not making adjustments, that means you're probably not learning from the feedback that's being presented to you. Muhammad Ali said, the man who sees the world at 50 the same way he did at 20 just wasted 30 years of his life. And I think that we can do that on a much more frequent interval with how we approach our practices and how we approach the work of hypnosis and how we approach our interactions with the people we care about and the people that we can be of service to. So when you talk about keeping the big picture in mind, realize that there are so many different ways that we can be of service and so many different ways that we can be significant in the lives of the people that we love. And we should be intentional about that, not just reactive. That's my rant on that. Yes, and there's the golden. Oh, now I see what's going on in the chat room, rhyming things with the American niche pronunciation. But yeah, so that's a big piece to me, is being mindful of all the different ways in which we can be impactful in the world.
All right, so far tonight, what we've done is we've talked about a lot of different things, and we've gotten deep tonight, rather than lighthearted, but that's okay. And I've shared some of my thoughts. Scott shared some of his thoughts, but the time does not stand still, and it is time. It is time for hypnosis. So anyone have any last question I want to ask it right now. Scott, anything you want to share with us right now?
As always, if you guys have requests or topics or people you want us to interview, let us know. If you have feedback about the hypnothoughts.com changes, upgrades, and migration, post those in the appropriate discussion there. Let's see. How do you make small classified ads work? Step 1, get a time machine.
Actually, I'm going to disagree with that. I'm a big fan of Don Lapre. Rest in peace, Don. Don Lapre, you might remember from the 1980s or 1990s. Get rich placing classified ads in newspapers, right? And there's one place left where classified ads still have value. And that is in those weekly entertainment magazines like, in Dallas, it's the Dallas Observer. In Austin, it's the Austin Chronicle. In Wichita, it's the F5. In Tulsa, it's the Urban Tulsa. So there's a weekly magazine that's in all the restaurants and bars. And usually there's ads for real estate and hookers and cannabis and whatever else in the back of these magazines. So everyone knows what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
And the cool thing about these ads is that the back page, backpage.com, they're literally cheap. And I'm not talking about online backpage.com unless you happen to also run a prostitution business. But if you have a service to sell that back page, right, is where people place all kinds of different ads, from moving companies to whatever else. And I have found that by running a weekly ad, it's like usually $10 or $15. They're usually cheap, $20 in some of the bigger cities. You can really get some premium advertising, and what it becomes is sort of the modern day Yellow Pages. It's not that people respond, oh yeah, I see the ad, I'm gonna call up and make an appointment for hypnosis. Is that they always know where the hypnotist is, right? And then one day they're like, wow, that's a great idea. I get hypnotized. I'm watching Oprah and Dr. Whoever's on talking about hypnosis. Hey, wait, didn't I remember seeing an ad for the last 32 weeks on that back page thing? I'm going to go pick one up and call the hypnotist. And so I have been a big believer that type of classified advertising still is effective in that one venue of the weekly, sort of entertainment things. So that's one of those few things that people actually still go read.
Which is amazing to me because I'm not one of those people, but I believe you.
Right.
Let's see. Guest 976 has requested that we interview Richard Clark. So we can do that in the coming weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have things to talk with him about, of course. I talk to Richard at least once a day, if not for many hours every day. So yeah, we'll do that. Anything else we want to do tonight? Richard Nongard, do you want to do some hypnosis with everybody and some future pacing for everybody tonight?
I do. All right. So, by the way, one thing I want to say, Scott was talking about making hypnosis recordings and not being good enough. If you wait till you're good enough, you'll never make any recordings.
That's true.
Just last week, using my handy dandy microphone, right? I made some induction recordings. In fact, right above here is one of them. You can get it. I posted another one on SoundCloud, and it's in our ICBCH forum. It's a visualization induction. And literally, the 15-minute visualization induction took me an hour because I kept starting over. I just couldn't get good enough. And so finally I just recorded it, and everyone who's listened to it was like, oh, wow, that's really great. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And I'm hearing when I listen to it, the things that I'm not satisfied with, but we're our own worst enemy. So never wait until you're good enough to do something to start doing it. Just start doing it and get better along the way. One of the principles in NLP is there is no such thing as failure, only feedback. And so start doing what it is that you want to do without worrying about whether or not you're good enough. And eventually you'll get good.
I agree with that completely, by the way.
Sure. All right. Wherever you are, is a great place to experience hypnosis. Unless, of course, you're driving a car or operating heavy farm machinery, but then you probably wouldn't have an internet connection anyway. And so close your eyes in the safety of the chair and the place where you are right now, and bring yourself to that resource state that we call hypnosis. Breathe in deeply. Pay attention to the breath. Notice what it feels like to have the air turn around in the deepest part of the lungs and become an exhale. And as you pay attention to each breath, recognize that each breath marks each moment, and that in this moment you have an opportunity to access those inner resources that can help you to experience success. Whether that's in a hypnosis practice, or another job that you might do during the day, or in your family, or even in the community where you work and where you serve and where you participate in the world around you. And you've set aside some time today, not only to learn, but also to experience hypnosis. And so in this time that you have, utilize that creative and intuitive part of the mind, that part of the mind that can bring you from the mundane experiences of the world to the extravagant promises of success. That part of the mind that can see you rising above all of life's stressors, as my friend John Sorbonne says, that mighty warrior in you that can conquer anything. And that's the part of the mind that we're accessing tonight. That part of the mind that is creative, that comes up with an idea that to this point you have never thought of before. That part of the mind that is filled with unbridled confidence, that part of the mind that, like an 8-year-old kid, has an unstoppable belief in anything that is possible. And so with each number and each breath, bring yourself into a deeper experience of relaxation or trance or the resource state that you associate with hypnosis. Amplifying your awareness of this part of your awareness. 10, 9, 8. Each breath, each number, amplifying, going deeper, rising higher. 6, 5, 4. Doing perfect. 3, 2, 1, 0. And notice something. Notice right now how magnificent it feels to know that even without a crystal ball that can predict the future, because of where you are right now, you have knowledge that the future is grand. Feels pretty good, doesn't it? To, in this place, in this chair, to create a mental business plan. One that can separate all of the can'ts or stressors of the past or limitations that people have imposed on us from the reality of the talents that you have deep within you and that you can access and bring really to any part of your life, again, whether it's your family or your community or your day job or your private practice or even your writing or recording or creativity. And as you envision yourself the way you know that you can be, what does that look like to you? Is it building a thriving private practice, supervising maybe multiple hypnotists in a large office? Or is it seeing ideally some high performance clients in a small yet exclusive environment that you have total control over on a day-to-day basis? Or is it creating products, again, whether they're books or MP3s or an iTunes store full of hypnosis recordings created by you? Or even just creating a couple of recordings to help the people in your life that are most important to you, because even though you don't do hypnosis as a profession, it's something you can professionally help other people to experience. And pace yourself. See yourself emerging from this session and maybe creating that to-do list or organizing some priorities. And in the next week or two, really getting started on what's most important to you. Maybe it's buying the correct microphone to make high quality recordings, or finding a permanent location for an established office. Create that mental picture of you a year from now. Knowing that that mental picture is possible because of the action you'll take to start the process of fulfilling that mental business plan. And even 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 20 years from now. And what's amazing is that it's quite possible for you to experience what your thoughts are right now in the future, because anything that is real had to be an idea first. Sure, times might change and things could look different. But the reality is, you have within you that which is important for you in creating success. And because you've taken some time to experience and learn and to do some self-hypnosis, Clearly, you understand the power and the value of hypnosis. And because of that, in your next hypnosis session, you will notice an unstoppable confidence as you deliver your words and share your talents with other people. Again, whether that's simply helping a friend with your skills or whether it's as a paid professional, maybe one who even works in a clinic or hospital or some other type of setting. And that confidence will translate into every area of life, which is really a fantastic thing. Because these are not things that I have done to you during our session, but things that you've created by simply following a process we call hypnosis. So the suggestions today haven't even come from me. They've really come from within you. You've asked me to make them by participating through this whole show as we've talked about these topics. And so you can congratulate yourself for the success that you will experience. But it is time to return to the room around you. And so pay attention to the chair below you. Pay attention to the air in the room around you, to my voice, and again to your breath, to this moment. When I count to 3, open the eyes, feeling fantastic, ready for the rest of the day. 1, 2, 3. Opening the eyes, feeling fantastic, and ready for the rest of the day. Or night, depending on what your time zone is.
Ready potentially to see a lunar eclipse.
And to hear sirens.
Yeah, that's the sirens coming to get me for the lunar eclipse.
Oh, okay, great.
So, a fun night tonight, everybody. Sorry if I got a little preachy and soapboxy, but it had been on my mind. And I like the idea of us thinking about things in the bigger picture instead of just being the term that I always like, prisoner of the moment. So there we go. There's a couple of great requests for Sherry Hood and Richard Clark as upcoming guests. So we're going to get on that.
Yeah, let's get on both of those, especially Sherry Hood. Sherry Hood would be a fantastic guest.
She's awesome. If people don't know who Sherry Hood is and what she's up to, and by the way, yes, 3s in the chat room. Absolutely. Applause in the chat room for Richard. And we would love it if we could get Sherry and Richard in here. So I'm going to work on those this week.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you for participating. Same time, same channel next week. See you later, alligators.
Goodbye.